It's another Manly Monday, and this Manly Monday we are talking about, should men pay for dates? And the short version of the answer is, it depends. It depends on a lot of factors. The answer is not always yes, and I am making this video because of this movement. You see it on TikTok and other places where certain women are like, no, he's gotta pay. I don't agree with that, and I'm from a different generation, but I'm gonna talk about why, so you guys can decide for yourself whether it's advantageous for you to adopt the more traditional version of, men pay for stuff. If you like this sort of content, help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone can use but can't afford it. Super important right now, coffee.com/Leanna K. And we got about 4 new Discord members via Patreon and Coffee this month that comes out at the beginning of each month. So if you join now, you'll get access to the backer stuff. I think it's still good. It's good for 7 days at the beginning of every month. Okay. So, maybe it's expired. I don't know. Okay. So paying for stuff. If you don't mind being being responsible for that kind of stuff, if you're looking for a more traditional arrangement of woman is the primary caregiver, man goes out and works, paying for things will probably attract women who are more interested in that setup. If that's not the kind of woman that you're interested in, I recommend a system more of whoever asks pays the first time, unless it is, if it's just friends, we're just going to hang out, the assumption is separate checks. Hold on, I gotta pause. Okay, I'm back. Somebody sent a email that was time sensitive to me instead of the person who needed it, so I had to pause. I was like, oh no. Okay, yeah. Working girl, right? If you want somebody who is more independent, if you want someone who has their own interests and their own income, sharing or taking turns or something like that, that's probably better for both parties. Again, if somebody doesn't have the money and you really want to do stuff, you can say, look, just I want to do this, so let me treat you. Going back and forth can be really useful. I preferred, when I was dating, to pay at least part of the time or part of the check. Now, I was a child of the 80s, a teenager of the 90s. Back then, it was pay for your own shit, because then he won't expect as much, right? In terms of sex, that was the way things rolled back then. So, bias declared in terms of upbringing, but there's a benefit to this, because I know, even when I'm just at lunch with male friends, just this last Monday, I met a friend it was Wednesday. I met a friend for brunch, and he drove 45 minutes each way to meet at the brunch place I wanted to be at. So I paid the check because he spent the money in gas to get there. I think that's fair. I think that's equitable. To me, that's a sign of respect. Those little things that show, look, I appreciate the effort you made. I understand money doesn't grow on trees. I appreciate you taking the extra time, traveling the extra distance. So I'm going to do this. And he was stunned. At first, like, you didn't have to do that. I'm like, you drove. And it's little things like that, right? This, from a business perspective, as well as a friendship perspective, those little things matter. And I'll, buy lunch for women too. If, I'm working with this volunteer right now and we meet every 2 weeks and I buy her lunch because she's a volunteer. And so I want to say, look, I appreciate you. Volunteer work is still work. It's, it's a $35 entree, but it goes a long way because it's unexpected. And I do think with dating, who pays for what really does set how the relationship works early. And if two people have a really vast income difference, effort and planning matters. So if the other person doesn't have a lot of money, planning a picnic or something like that. I mean, food's expensive now, but still, you know what I mean? There's no additional fees on top of the food. Planning a picnic or a hiking trail or something like that doesn't cost a lot, that puts an effort, and then the other partner, they want to do the expensive things. At least both people are putting in. I've heard a lot of complaints from male clients about how it's like pulling teeth to even get a conversation out of women that they're dating. And I'm seeing a correlation between the women who can't make conversation and the women who expect men to pay for things. There's gotta be effort that goes both ways. That isn't necessarily money, but there's gotta be something put in both ways. So if she's a spectacular conversationalist and say, she's got a lot of college debt or is just getting out of a marriage where she was left financially disadvantaged, shall we say, if she's got kids, something that can obviously suck up more income in an expensive school, needs an expensive surgery in the US, something like that, right? Like, these things make sense. What else is there that you feel like you're not being taken advantage of? Because lifestyle daters are a thing. It can be even little, considerate messages during the week. That's a form of effort, right? It's not just waiting for you to do everything. It's if she does spend a lot of time and effort looking really nice, that shit is expensive. I have been I was thinking about updating my wardrobe, my formal wear wardrobe. Shit is so expensive. I'm like, fuck it. I'm altering the dresses I already have. It's friggin' cheaper. So that's something to keep in mind, that if you want somebody who really pays attention to her looks, that shit is expensive. Her shoes are probably $200. Her dress is probably $500. Her hair probably cost her at least $200 to get done. So, factor in underwear and bras and all that stuff. She spent $1,000 on that outfit. If you appreciate that stuff, that matters. Factor that in. You see what I'm saying? The approach you take to things like this is all about the type of woman you want to attract. If you, want a woman who spends a lot of money on things like games and comics, well, yeah, those things are expensive. And so both of you are probably going to be like, yeah, we're going to stick to movies and less expensive things, right? Like, unless, again, you are really wealthy and don't mind spending the money. If you don't mind spending the money, that's great. But if you're expecting something other than her company for the money, revisit it. If you feel like you're gonna feel used if it doesn't go anywhere, reconsider it, because that is not something you can control. If you just like going out and having a nice time with an attractive woman, whatever your version of attractive is, great. go out, blow a wad, have a great time. I like to go out and have a really nice scotch or good tequila or a great bottle of wine sometimes. And yeah, it's friggin' expensive, but every so often, yeah, it's the aesthetic thing. So if you're sharing in an experience like that, where at the end of it, you can say, this was an awesome experience, even though the relationship didn't work out or the dating didn't work out, that's probably your best bet if you're spending money. So you can still go, this was a really good time. I got something out of it. Because again, you cannot control whether she wants to see you again, right? That's up to her. And people make mistakes. You can control going, all right, what can I do? What is the cap on what I'm going to spend? That if it's just this night, I feel like it was worth it. That is how I'd go into anything like that. And that includes friends, right? If there is an expectation that, like, okay, I'm going to pay for you to go to this thing, but I want to do this while we're there, for instance, and they agree to it, awesome, right? But if you've got this unspoken expectation that they are not aware of, that ain't cool. So the best thing to do is, one, set a cap on what you're willing to spend, understanding that it's just that night, right? I'm not a big believer in doing hobbies and activities that you don't really like because that's where women are. Because then you're going to meet women who like those activities and it's going to be a mismatch. Do something you enjoy, right? I think salsa dancing's super fun. So if you want to learn to salsa dance, you want to get better at salsa dancing, go salsa dance, but don't do it just to meet women. That's miserable, okay? Yoga, same thing. Whatever the fuck other things, like. And even if you do stuff like speed dating, which usually costs money to sign up to, go for the experience, right? Set some sort of gamified goal. Whenever I go to networking things or anything like that, it's like, okay, I am going to go here for this experience that I can control, not an outcome I can't. I've gotten back into like event marketing and things like that. So there was a setup. It was with a potential sponsor. Didn't know how it was going to go, but they had a stall at a particular weekend market that I'd never been to before. It's like, what an excuse to check it out. And so I went there and we met, and it actually went really well. But I met a couple other vendors and I looked around and it was cool. And they had like a vegetable market outside. And so no matter what happened at that meeting, it was like, neat. That was an excuse to go do that, right? So if you are dating and you've got this list of things that you'd really like to check out, a movie you'd really like to see or somewhere you'd like to go, double whammy them so that at the end of it, you don't really feel like you wasted your time. Now, if you're someone who connects events and relationships very intensely, this may not work for you. If a sad memory of being rejected is going to mean you can't go back to that place you really liked, keep your dating life and the places that make you happy separate. Use it as an opportunity to try new places or step outside of your comfort zone in that regard, and set it up as, there's this type of food I really want to try and I have no idea about it. I don't know what to do, so I may embarrass the heck out of myself, but hey, it'll be fun. That's my style, right? You've got to refine the pitch to your personality. But honestly, it's usually charming. I know with clients, with people that I'm working with who are new, and I do okay, I'm going to completely fuck this up probably, but I'm gonna try. Everybody always leans forward. They're suddenly curious. Like, whoa, she's telling me she may go down in flames? I'm intrigued, right? You can set it up so you don't have to be perfect and still be charming. And that's with dating where you really want to get to, because you're going to be nervous. And it is, there are stakes, right? As much as you minimize the stakes, there are some stakes. And if it doesn't work out, it's always kind of disappointing. So these are ways to minimize that. Now, in terms of finding your dating style, it has to do with personality type. It's a lot of trial and error. And women are very judgmental these days. The shit that I think some women just roast dudes to get them to go away. But it's cruel. Some of the things that guys have told me that women have said on or after dates. It doesn't make it true. Okay? If a woman tells you have too much baggage, if a woman tells you, you know, you have to work on yourself or all that stuff, you get to decide whether that's true or not, or whether she just wasn't the right person for you. And if you really feel stuck, then you do deserve better, but you're not automatically broken because a woman says you are. Women are not, despite what the stereotypes are, emotional or psychologically naturally gifted. I was telling a client last week that part of the reason, you know, I am good at what I do, and I work with a lot of neurodivergent people because there were certain things that just, a lot of it didn't come naturally to me. I was really quiet. I mask extrovert. I spent most of my childhood and teen years terrified that somebody was going to mock me or belittle me. And I had to learn. The other thing I had to learn was why it's important for people to like you. And so I work well with people who are terrified that people don't like them or have had catastrophic experiences that way, because I'm very convincing when I'm like, fuck them. But I say, okay, I understand it's not that simple. And I tell them the story about how I had to learn. And that often makes them feel a little bit better, because we get a lot of this advice. Don't care what anyone thinks. Just if they don't support you, get all that stuff, right? But the truth is, when you're dating, of course you care what the person thinks, right? You ask them out because you like them. So remembering that you are allowed to judge them as much as they're allowed to judge you. You're not seeking their approval. You're looking for compatibility. This is very, very important. And this is another thing into not overspending on the first date. I don't think that the first date should be really lavishly expensive. I think that the best place to go on a first date, if you want to go for a meal, is a mid-priced place with a more casual atmosphere. So she doesn't have to spend a ton of time, you know, super getting ready, but she can still look nice if she wants, that isn't too loud so you're not shouting over the music, but is casual enough that you can focus on the conversation and each other, and not, you know, if you're going to spill wine on your really fancy whatever, right? And dress nicely, you know, make sure the clothes are new and flatter you and suit you. You know, make sure the grooming's there, but don't overdo it, because you want to be able to top the first date with the second date and the second date with the third date, right? If it's all downhill, there's going to just be it wasn't as good as the first time. So don't start at the top, right? Like, you don't have to spend a huge amount of money to make a good first impression. You have to be there and be somewhat relaxed, or at least charming about not being relaxed, and a good conversationalist, and interested in what she has to say. And if she's one of these people who it's like pulling teeth to get anything out of her, she could be terribly shy. Quite frankly, though, I would not have a second date with somebody where it felt like it was pulling teeth. The conversation should flow. And, I don't get many opportunities. Okay, maybe coming into it with that mindset is part of the reason why. Believe it or not, right? If you have this negative self-image when it comes to dating, it will show through. It will. These things, this isn't metaphysical woo-woo shit. This is basic psychology. People can smell insecurity. They might not know the exact scent, but they know it stinks. So you want to go in there going, you don't have to have perfect confidence, right? It's more of a see how it goes, right? This will be an interesting experience. At the very least, it's practice if you don't date a lot. And if you're really, really worried about how to behave on dates, ask a friend, a platonic friend, to say, can we go out? Like, you can help me practice doing this stuff. Most people will say yes, because it's actually pretty fun, right? And then they can give you feedback. And so you will be more confident that you've at least got, somebody who's your back saying, this is okay. So if it doesn't go well, it wasn't you, it was her. There's not many firm right or wrong answers with this stuff. It's all about compatibility. What is completely disastrous with one person is going to look great with others. The only ones that are surefire, no, probably not going to work, is inattentiveness, rudeness, seeming a little overeager, if you know what I mean, like really trying to force it. Not enthusiasm. Enthusiasm's great. Thinking the person's great is awesome. It's that the must make it happen to check box of girlfriend that is going to scare women off. Because then you're asking her to fill a role, not be in a relationship. And again, that first date should be more like what it would be like the once a month kind of thing, instead of the big spectacular, like, I can show you the world Disney musical number. No. Save that for later. And yeah, don't compromise when it comes to not wanting to pay for everything, because that's one of those fundamental boundaries and balance issues in a relationship that if you compromise on, you will regret it and you will resent the other person. So I know this is different advice than you hear elsewhere on the internet, but I am not a TikToker trying to game the algorithm. I am telling you what research and experience and science has said works. So what research, what citations? I am giving the accepted kind of, this is considered best practices across things. Not a single study, because especially in psychology, single studies may suffer from a replication bias. I tend to stick to things that are like, yeah, we've known this for a while. We know that these core values are fundamental. We know that having a similar opinion regarding money is very, very important to long-term relationships, even friendships. That religion, whether or not you want kids, those things are all really, 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 really important to mesh on. Other things like hobbies and whatnot, less important actually. Those fundamental things about how to life, that's what really has to line up. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching Manly Mondays.